There we are. I forgot to change my layout. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Here I am with Kurt Francom.
Hey.
From Leading Saints. Kurt, give us, for people who don't know, they should know you've been on my podcast twice.
Yes.
But for people who don't know who you are, who are you?
So, my name is Kurt Francom. I live in American Fork, Utah. Married to Alana. She's from Eastern Idaho. She's
My cousin,
extended cousin to Rick.
Cousin.
So, my children are related to Rick, I guess I could say. And live in American Fork, Utah. I run a platform called Leading Saints, and
I should pull that up too.
We strive to enhance leadership ability and help individuals who are, striving to build Zion, and whether it's through a formal calling or just as a Latter-day Saint. So I do podcasts, and I have an online community called Zion Lab, and we have a lot of fun there. And in my spare time, I go to lunch with Rick.
We haven't been to lunch in a long time, Kurt. We need to do it again. So, and in fact, if I can figure out what I'm doing, I'm going to show a quick.
Am I the inaugural interview on this platform? Is that?
You are the inaugural interview on this platform.
How many people said no before you got to my name?
Say that again.
How many people said no before you got to me?
Actually, you were the first person I called, Kurt.
Oh, my goodness.
That is the honest truth. So, Art of Floundering podcast. I've not heard of that before. I feel bad. It says peace and love. So happy to learn about this because he knows about my new announcement here that we're going to be sharing in just a minute. I can't read what that says. LSA. I can't. That's a
LS.
Hi, Rick and Kurt. And Walter Reed says, howdy, listening in via YouTube from Wisconsin. Good to see you, Walter. Walter's one of my super listeners. So
super fan of Rick.
Super fan.
You got a whole bunch of those.
So let's see here. I'm trying to. I was going to have all this set up first. Here, I'm going to do the first thing. We got to talk about one more. We got a couple more here. David Nielsen. That's David Nielsen, my friend from Malad, Idaho.
Where Idaho begins.
Do you know David?
No, but I know Malad.
Okay.
That's a great bathroom stop when we go visit my in-laws. That's right.
Yeah. And then Mormon Restoration, excited for this. So that's exciting. We're glad you guys are here. So what I'd like to do is make the announcement of the newest. If some of you have been listening and paying attention, you may have noticed in the last couple of weeks, I don't know who listens all the way to the end, but I just said something about this is part of the Gospel Tangents Network, and nobody has said anything, so I don't know how closely they were paying attention. But we've got a new website that's up now, LDS Faith Journeys, and you can go to ldsfaithjourneys.org. So this is part of the Gospel Tangents Network. If you zoom in on there, you can see my little dove. In fact, I need to shout out to Jenny Smith. She helped me set this up. I need to get the artwork so I can start using it more. So we're really excited. I actually asked AI for a couple of another words. So in the past, we've used the word faith crisis. I know, Kurt, you said you didn't like the term faith crisis.
Right, sure. I mean, I think faith journey.
I've never heard anybody that has a good name. Do you have a good name for faith crisis, Kurt?
Well, I think sometimes, when somebody, is going through a faith crisis, we sometimes, it just sounds so like heavy, right? Or like there's a crisis in your life, and so something's not right. When in reality, we should all be on some level of a faith journey, right? Our faith should be evolving and maturing to some degree, right? So I love your framing of faith journey, or that you talk about, that person is they're in a faith crisis. I think it's better to say, that maybe they're on a faith journey, or they are questioning. They've begun questioning their faith. Like, to me, that's, I don't know, it's a little, more appropriate in my opinion. But
yeah. I was thinking of spiritual reconciliation or spiritual.
Nobody knows how to spell reconciliation, Rick.
Yeah, so that's kind of long. But yeah, so we're all on our different faith journey. This is to help us out. So one of the nice things about the website, this is so small, I should have put it in a different window. Maybe I can do this, and hopefully it's not.
You can do just the screen and kick us off or
No, let's see here. Did I?
looks great on my screen, but
Okay. So, I did something that I didn't mean to do, but that's all right. It's on a bigger screen, so now I can see it better, but I'm not looking at the camera anymore. But at any rate, so this is kind of to help people who have questions about, the church, whether that's history or I don't want to say politics because I'm not a politics guy, but sometimes there's LGBT issues and that sort of a thing. So you can join the discussion. You can either register as a new user. We've actually pulled in some forums from an old site, and you can join the discussion. And so hopefully, there we go. It's a little slow. So we've got the introduction, support, general discussions, spiritual stuff, history and doctrine discussions, book and media reviews. And so these are some of the things that, I've been a moderator at this website. And so we've moved it to a new server, given it a new name, kind of freshen it up. And I thought it would be fun to kind of see if we can get some life back into it. And so, so anyway, so if you have any questions, all you just need to do is register, and you can log in here. You just need a username and password. I haven't decided if I want to start a new forum or if I should start a new page that has links to this. But the idea here is at LDS Faith Journeys, we're going to talk to, and I haven't talked to anybody except for Kurt. Kurt graciously said yes.
Of course,
join us on this kind of launch party. And but kind of some people that I'm thinking that I would like to ask, and hopefully they say yes. Patrick Mason, Jim Bennett, Janice Allred. A lot of people, if you've watched Gospel Tangent, you may know her. She's Margaret Toscano's sister. One of the interesting things about Janice, she got excommunicated 30 years ago, and she has never quit attending church. And so, I'm going to talk to her about that. I was talking to Kurt earlier. Kurt has his Leading Saints podcast, and he's always trying to help people with their callings. And I said, we're going to do a little mini Leading Saints episode here. Janice, what would you say to people who minister to excommunicated members? And so, anyway, I want to bring some people in there. We kind of want to bring a wide tent. The Toscanos, Paul and Margaret, I might bring them on. So those are kind of some of the guests that I'm thinking about that I'd like to have on.
So Rick, let me ask you, I don't mean to jump into.
Go ahead. No, you're good. Ask away.
I'm just curious because you've been doing Gospel Tangents for years now, and what is it? The history, science, and theology, right?
The best source for Mormon history, science, and theology.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, what was the aha moment, the impetus of thinking, well, maybe I'll create this other platform to talk more specifically about faith journeys?
I'm just not busy enough.
Man, that's what you should do the podcast on, is how to not be busy.
So no, it is good. It is something. The idea behind this, in fact, maybe I should ask a question back to you, but the idea is to just help people with their faith journey. A lot of people have questions about history or doctrine, and that's kind of my wheelhouse. I have some other friends who are good with LGBT stuff. Oh, Ben Shalati's another one that I haven't asked, but would love to have on. If anybody knows Ben.
Yeah, I know Ben. Yeah.
Do you know Ben? So hopefully we can get him on. I saw him at UVU because he teaches at UVU now. And he had no clue who I was, but
I can't believe it.
It's true. So, but anyway, just help people with their faith journeys. But Kurt, let me throw a question out to you. Do you think everybody should stay LDS, or is this church not for some people? I'm curious what you would say to that question.
I mean, you come out swinging, Rick. This is great.
Yeah.
This is what I appreciate about when you interview me is, I
always give you these softballs.
Yeah, you do. And you come with a few follow-up that really hit me in the nose as well. But I'm happy to, entertain them. Do I think everybody should? Is this church not for everybody? I know this is. I mean, and to be honest, I am self-aware enough to recognize I'm a very orthodox member,
Mhm.
and I truly believe, like, if this church is what it says it is and claims to be, I believe there's a place for everybody, and it's a phenomenal model, framing of life, and to either progress individually or to raise a family, or it, to me, there's a place for everybody, and we should invite everybody. And I know that that is trickier for some than others, or that doesn't mean it's going to be super easy, or that doesn't mean that, it's just rainbows and butterflies there. But it is, I think it is worth the leaning into what the restored gospel has to offer for everybody. And so, and again, I know there's a lot of nuance there, and everybody's path is not going to look the same. For some, it's quite a lot easier. I'd say mine, for me, it has really fit my life experience and the direction I've taken my life. For others, that's been different. So
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the bias, if I can use that term, I always try to be unbiased, at least on Gospel Tangents, but the bias on LDS Faith journeys is we'd like everybody to stay. Although I think, it kind of depends. I don't think the hardest thing, I think, is for our LGBT members. Um, and so it can be really very hard. But I think it's okay to like step away for a little bit if church is hard. You know, come here. Hopefully, we'll do this every probably twice a month or so. We'll try to do kind of a Gospel Tangents live. Think of this as kind of your Sunday night fireside. We'd like to keep everybody kind of tethered to the church, and we're here to ask I don't know if we can answer. I don't want to say that we can answer all the hard questions, but we're here to support the hard questions. And I think whether somebody stays or leaves, everybody should be supported.
Right.
So,
And that's one big reason why obviously you're my friend. So I'll say, I want to help out as much as I can. But another big reason why I'd step into this forum tonight is that I realize for some people, life looks different. It's a lot more difficult. You mentioned the LGBT, brothers and sisters. That's a different way of life that's going to look different for other people. But a lot of this isn't necessarily to find the right answers or to find the perfect quote or conference talk. If you just read this, suddenly it just makes sense. But it's more about developing a community where people can sit in, where it's created space to be heard. That's where people can be empathetic, that they can try their best to understand, and then say, how about together we come together as a community and give it one more go, right? Another thing I was going to add on to that, going back to your question is, you mentioned sometimes people maybe need to take a break from it, which I wouldn't totally disagree with. I have this sort of the analogy of the scuba gear on a bicycle. Like sometimes I see the gospel for many individuals where it's the gospel in the gospel way of life, the covenant path, if you will.
did we lose Kurt? He's freezing up for some reason.
Nature, DNA. What's that?
You're back now. You were frozen up. I don't know if that was me or you, but one of us froze up.
Okay. Well, I'll go back a little bit. So the gospel is sort of like this bicycle. It's very functional, but for whatever reason, whether it's how we were raised, our DNA, just trauma we've had in life, sometimes for whatever reason, we've put on a bunch of scuba gear, and then we got the big, flippers and the scuba mask, and we get on this bike and we try and ride it, and it's very difficult to ride. And so some people leave the church frustrated, and they think, man, that's a terrible bicycle. I can't believe they, they actually gave me that bicycle and called it a religion, right? When in reality, for whatever reason, we got on that bike in the wrong state to actually pedal. So in my opinion, you're right. Sometimes we have to get off the bike, reassess things, hit the big reset button. Because I don't know if you ever hear individuals, like whether they've left the church or on a certain faith journey that's caused them to question their faith. They say things about the church, maybe how it's harmful or how it's bad or this experience, that experience. And I look at them and
I've
think,
never heard that before, Kurt.
but and
I'm teasing, of course.
I, I'm describing the same church, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, did I freeze up again?
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. Anyways, so sometimes I'm like, it seems like you left a church that I would never join, right? In reality, sometimes we do need a reset where we can take a moment to step away or reassess and say, okay, maybe I came at this religious bicycle the wrong way. Maybe I need to reassess what's really going on here, and then figure out how to get on the bike and start pedaling again. Like, oh, actually, this bike works quite well. It's just the way I met it isn't as effective. And that's not like, I'm not saying it's your fault that you put on the scuba gear. It's not your fault. That's just how life is sometimes. The home I was raised in is different than the home you were raised in, the country you live in, or the scenario or the trauma you experience. And it is what it is. And so sometimes we do need that reset to get on the bike again, the religious bicycle, the church bicycle, and start pedaling once again.
Well, very good. Very good. Hey, let's get a few comments in here.
Do it.
I can't remember if I showed this comment or not, but if I did, we're going to, oh, wait. Oh, it looks like we missed a few of these. Let's see. Richard Reddick says, I like faith crisis because until you can resolve it, you are in a crisis and not on a journey. So my hope is that we get people out of the crisis and onto the journey. And I think you're right. It can be a crisis for people, but we don't want you to get stuck there. So do you want to add anything onto that, Kurt? Although you froze up again, or maybe it's me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big component of this is that, and I think it is my computer. Sorry, I'll do my best to not freeze up.
Yeah.
I need to get my computer looked at. Anyways, we live in a world full of shame, and shame is the strongest tool of the adversary, in my opinion. And any context where we try and push through it because of shame, is going to be less effective. So if you label somebody, and shame is all about identity. When somebody feels like, oh, I'm in crisis, therefore, if I don't get out of this crisis, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I resolve it, right? And so that's where I'm like, if we can stay away from the crisis label, because it's like, no, you're having a human experience, right? You're just figuring this thing out. And that's not because you're broken. It's just because we live in a fallen state, in a fallen world. And that's why we need to orient ourselves towards Jesus Christ, and he'll help us through it.
All right. We've got this one in all caps, and I'm not quite sure why. This one looks like probably a non-LDS person. Let everyone know Jesus is God Almighty, the God of Abraham. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. She follows up, Jesus is the only God that can save you. Thank you.
On YouTube,
my good friend
get excited to say things in all caps.
Yeah.
And so
most people, don't like the shout. All caps is shouting there. Deb Luce, hi from Iowa. Check out my shirt, Deb. So I ate this at dinner just now, and my son was like, is that Daniel in the lion's den? And I said, no, that's the lamb and the lion. And then he's like, oh yeah, Isaiah. So anyway, this is the seal for the community of Christ. We like to be ecumenical here. And Deb, for those who don't know her, she is a evangelist. I almost said a patriarch. She definitely not a patriarch. She's an evangelist at the community of Christ. One of my best friends and favorite people in the whole world. So hi, Deb. Chris Johnson, Gospel Tangents, truly help me find a way to keep my faith while also embracing accurate history. Thank you, Chris. That's awesome.
I think Chris is one of thousands of people that you've helped, Rick, over the years.
Well,
so
thank you. Well, hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah.
I try to give the accurate history with Gospel Tangents. That's not going to change. Want to support people at LDS Faith Journeys as well. Now, this is an interesting thing here. What scuba gear have you had to remove, Kurt? What's that all about?
Well, just going back to my analogy of sometimes we get on the church bike with scuba gear, and makes it really hard to pedal, right? So what are the things in my life that I've had to, reconcile or step off the bike in some form or fashion? Of course, I never stepped away from the church or gone through an inactive period or things.
We're frozen up again.
like that.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I'm back. Anyways, I've never stepped away from the church per se, but and everybody will come to a point of reconciliation, whether it's a son or child that comes out, whether it's a friend, an uncle who leaves the church, or whatever it is. And I remember there was a time when I was serving as bishop. I've done a whole episode on this about my second counselor in the bishopric left the church while he was in the bishopric. My bishopric.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted you to talk about, Kurt. So tell us a little bit more. You don't have to give you can listen to the whole episode. I'll get the link from you, but give us a kind of a thumbnail of that.
Yeah. So, I was serving as bishop. This is back I was called in 2011 in South Salt Lake. And during my time near the end of my 5 years term, this great family moved in. They seemed very capable. He was an attorney, and just this family like that you pray for, the ideal family you want to move into your ward. And he would, started putting me in different callings, and he's just great, just a phenomenal member of the church. He served as the elders quorum president, and then I called him to serve in the bishopric. And little did I know that he had gone to BYU Law School years before.
We heard you say BYU Law School, and then we lost you.
And going through law school. Okay. So, he went through BYU Law School, and one of his religion classes had them read Rough Stone Rolling by Richard Bushman, which I know you're well aware or familiar with. And this was, as there's similar stories out there. This, it's the raw and real history of Joseph Smith, and sometimes some of those facts in history are tough to swallow when maybe you were raised in a way where the church history was always black and white and very easy to consume, right? And this sort of was the beginning of his faith journey or faith crisis, whatever you want to term it. And he kind of managed it for a while, kind of put things on his shelf, as people say, until he was called into the bishopric, because in his mind, he kind of felt this extra pressure being in the bishopric that now he needed to, every 3 months or so, he was going to stand and start fast and testimony meeting. As you typically know, the bishopric starts out with their testimony. And he felt this extra pressure to be a true leader of the ward. He's going to have to stand up there and say, I know without a shadow. All right, my back. Okay, sorry. I hope you're enjoying these frozen faces of mine as much as I am. So going back, he felt this extra pressure that he's going to have to stand at the lectern and say, "I know without a shadow of a doubt that Joseph Smith was a prophet, that the church is true, that the book, right? All these faith statements, or these I know statements that are so traditional, and that really started him to kind of his faith to spin out of control. And he struggled with depression and was started to get distant, and even to the point where he just stopped showing up to church. I mean, this is my counselor in the bishopric. I'm like, hey, guys, I need some help around here. I really didn't understand.
I don't remember this part.
Yeah, and then I was released. I was called into the stake presidency and was released, and it's the final Sunday where we're getting released. It's sort of a moment of reflection of, that they have all of us, give our testimony, which I don't think is the best practice, but is what we did. And he wasn't even there. And so I was just really concerned, right? And so I'd been reaching out to him. We've been having one-on-one conversations, and he'd open up about this struggle that he had been having. And, I just thought, let's keep talking about it. And I just encourage him. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to, state anything I know or lie or anyways, sorry, Rick. Anyway, so I thought I was working with him. We got released, and then it was several, 6 months, 8 months later that the new bishop informed me that him and his family had removed their names from the church records, right? And man, I was just heartbroken. I'm like, I thought we were like working through this, right? And so we continued to do lunches, and he actually brought it up and said, hey, would you ever be open to having a conversation about this on your podcast? I'm like, oh, absolutely. Let's do it. Right. And so going back to the question of when have I had to, what scuba gear I've had to remove, like that really shifted me into a different part of my faith where I'm like, oh, so like people can't just follow this formula and it works out. Like, cause I've read Rough Stone Rolling. It didn't spin me out into a faith crisis or have me start questioning my faith. But it did for him, right? So it helped me be a little more self-aware of like, oh, just because I do ABC doesn't mean that everybody can do ABC and have the same faith experience, the same journey as I have.
Very good. I think we got that.
And so it just really, okay. Anyway, so that's where I had to, in some form, step off the bike and be like, okay, if I'm going to keep pedaling this bike and accelerate, I'm going to have to realize there's a lot more nuance in the lives of individuals. And I have to be okay with that. And I have to be open and be able to create space for people whose experience isn't like mine. Right. So, and that's one of several instances where I've really had to reconcile sort of my black and white faith experience to one that was a little more nuanced. So.
Well, very good. So this is an interesting question here from my friend Deb Luce. Am I allowed not being LDS because she's Community of Christ? Deb, you are always allowed. Deb has some of the best, most spiritual insights you'll ever find. I will just say this is geared towards LDS, but my Community of Christ friends are they're definitely welcome. I know in fact, I've been communicating with Deb on some stuff their church is having some issues with. But anyway, Deb's one of my great friends. I don't know, can I admit this, Kurt? Kurt's been a bishop and a former stake president, so I almost feel like I'm doing confession here. But I will just tell, I'm going to do this. Hopefully I won't get in trouble. So Kurt, I'm going to ask forgiveness before I do this.
Okay, all right.
When I was back, what was it, 3 years ago for the Community of Christ World Conference, my back was aching horribly. And it was so terrible. I couldn't sit in the auditorium because the seats were really uncomfortable. And in the basement of the auditorium, it's kind of like in Kirtland, how you have the two, anyway, it's a big open area and they had a big giant screen TV. And I would actually lie down on my stomach because it made my back feel better. And Deb came and she said, "Would you like a blessing?" And she gave me a blessing. So one of the most dear experiences of my life. So not being LDS, you're still allowed to give blessings. I think so anyway. So anyway, let's go on here. Cody Banks coming from Sydney, Australia. Wow. It's like morning in Australia, I think, isn't it? Not religious, but obsessed with the history of the Restoration movement. Welcome, Cody Banks. We're glad to have you. Mormon restoration, one of the most important things that helped me move from my crisis to journey, I like that, was validations of the struggle, not just dismissive apologetics.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big problem, that there is a lot of dismissive apologetics. Why is that a problem for you? Can you talk more about that, Kurt?
Yeah, well, just going back to my experience where I thought, if I talk with my friend Heath, long enough, I can get him all the right answers, get him the articles, get him the conference talk, and just be like, see, like, just look at it like I look at it, right? Yeah. And it's very easy for, naturally, it's very common for church leaders to be more black and white. So they approach it more black and white. Well, just read this and stop reading that and you'll be fine, right?
Yeah, quit reading all that anti-Mormon literature.
Yeah, right. But it's a lot more, complex as it should be. I mean, we're complex beings. And so.
Well, very good. Let's see. Poke Phantom, I'm late. Looking forward to the podcast, though. Well, good to hear. Nathan Wilkerson, love these live sessions. Oh, we've got a question for Kurt. Kurt, can you talk about your involvement with Warrior Heart boot camps? I'm actually curious about that too, and how they have impacted your faith journey.
Cool. So if I'm reading the username right, this is actually from the bishop who had his office next door to my bishop's office. So he's a
Oh,
good friend of mine and has attended some of these Warrior Heart boot camps with me. So yeah, this Warrior Heart is a organization that puts on non how do I describe it? Men's non-denominational Christian men's retreats. It's like FSY for grown men, and it is life changing, transformational. Just go to awarriorheart.com and just watch some of the testimonials on there of the men and the experiences they've had. Okay. And so what's helped me is that sometimes there's so much baggage with our faith tradition. And I love a lot of the baggage. I love the formality of it.
you love the formality, and then we didn't hear after that.
Um, all right, okay, I'm back. I love the formality of it. I'm the type, I love putting on the white shirt and tie, the suit, and going there. I still wear a suit every week, even though I'm not a quote unquote in a bishopric.
Yeah, but you're sporting the beard, and you're the elders quorum
All right.
president.
This is my one act of rebellion in my life, but I like the beard. So and you got to start shifting culture one way, but
Yeah,
but there,
I'm all for it.
for some individuals, especially men in the church, they can have a very like shame-filled experience. Again, they've gotten on the bike in scuba gear in their own special way, where in their adulthood they're just getting beat down by life, and here they are trying to fulfill their duty as a priesthood holder, and a lot of them can just sort of silently quit or loudly quit the church thing, and so Warrior Heart provides a container where those men can step in, and we strip away all of
Where your heart strips away all of something.
anyways, we strip yeah, that's a bad place to leave you hanging. We strip away we try to anyways strip away all of the baggage of sort of that faith experience. And so we come in and we're just focused on for 3 days. We invite men to unplug and focus on the relationship with God. And we have a series of presentations. After each presentation is a vow of silence. And that vow of silence is really the secret sauce. Men have transformational experiences just sitting with God, asking him questions and journaling. And so we're not talking about, deep theology. We're just saying it's important for you to know you are accepted as a beloved son of Jesus Christ. And let's start there, that you're loved. He loves you. And men feel recharged to return to whatever faith background they come from with new motivation. It's in 3 days. It's sort of get off the bike and reassess the scuba gear and get back on the bike and start pedaling. So we get all types of faiths there. Obviously, the ones that we hold in Utah, they're more prominent LDS, but we're holding one in April in Arizona. There's going to be about 200 men there. We're doing our first one in Washington State. We do one in Idaho, Alaska. Obviously the one ship.
Was that one ship? I think it was. You said Alaska, and then I think it was one ship.
Obviously, Wanship, Utah, which is up by Park City. We do one there. So I would encourage anybody to lean into this. Don't let finances stop you. There's obviously a cost, but we have scholarship funds standing by. Please apply for a scholarship. And there is also, go to theheartofawoman.net. Sorry, that's sort of the sister version of the women's retreat version of this, a similar experience. So it's all based on a book written by a Christian author named John Eldredge, which is called Wild at Heart, which should be required reading for every man in the church and also his wife. So,
all right. Very good. Well, let's see here. So, looks like we've run out of comments for now. But yeah, just want to make sure everybody's aware. Go to ldsfaithjourneys.org. You can, we've got some further reading here. Maybe I'll just click on that really quickly. These are some links to other websites on things that can help you hopefully continue to have faith in God, but the forums are kind of where it's at. That's where the activity is going to be. I think I am going to create a new forum that's just specifically devoted to these hopefully live podcasts. I did just release an episode on gospel tangents, and I think I'm probably going to be releasing that on LDS Faith Journeys as well. My interview with Troy Abels. I don't know if many of you know who Troy Abels was. He had a podcast called The Last Dispensation, and unfortunately on Thursday, Troy passed away. Still haven't figured out what happened there. So anyway, my heart goes out to the Abels family out there in California. But Troy had interviewed me 5-6 years ago, and a lot of it was about reconciling faith and history and that sort of a thing. And it is funny. I'm gonna throw this question at you, Kurt.
Okay.
I know that there have been lately, trying to use the correct terms here, polygamy revisionists. I'll try not to use polygamy denier, but anyway, some people who no longer believe that Joseph did not practice polygamy, which is kind of funny. That used to be an RLDS position, and over the last 10 years, a lot of LDS people are saying Joseph didn't practice polygamy. Some of them are getting excommunicated. So I can still call you Bishop Francom, right? Once a bishop, always a bishop. So Bishop Francom, what do you think about these people who are losing their membership because they believe Joseph didn't practice polygamy? Should they be allowed to stay or what?
Well, obviously, anytime you hear somebody gets excommunicated, or in more modern terms, they have a removal of membership, and a lot of them can sometimes be more vocal, and they go on different podcasts and share their side of the story, which is fine. It's their prerogative. If they want to do that, that's fine. We never hear the other side of the story. We don't hear what the stake presidency was weighing, or the bishopric, or all those things. And if there's anything I've taken away from being in church leadership, is that it's made me more empathetic to all people, including church leaders. And I promise you, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that brought them to that decision. Generally speaking, and I wouldn't, I would never comment on a specific scenario, but generally speaking, the problem is oh boy, here we go. Anyways, generally speaking, the problem is that nobody in any example I've seen, nobody loses their membership because they believe Joseph Smith did not practice polygamy. What the problem is when they get on a very public platform, which is very easy to do, and they start spreading these ideas that are faulty, in my opinion, but nonetheless, they can have their opinion. They start spreading these opinions, and it starts turning other people. This is a movement happening in the church that can grow to a place that it becomes a really big problem for the church for a variety of reasons, right? And so, of course, the church has every right to address that, and it's sad, and I would pray that these individuals just maybe change their ways and say,
You said,
so I pray these individuals change their ways and just say, just change their ways and say, you can believe this. That's fine. Believe it all you want. But doing it publicly and on large platforms, that's where it gets dangerous. So, just reconsider that, right? And in my opinion, and I'm not a historian. I'm not, I just have my opinion. And it's probably an undereducated one, and that's fine. It's not about what you're saying about Joseph Smith. It's about what you're saying means about Brigham Young. And Brigham Young, especially over the last few years, ends up under a lot of buses. And
he's been run over like 100 times at least.
He is. And from the contacts I have with the church, the first presidency, especially the man in charge, feels very strongly of don't mess with Brigham. don't mess with one of my predecessors that had a very, very difficult job.
Yeah.
That don't mess with one of my predecessors that had a very difficult job that we don't know the ins and outs. And I think someday when all things are clear or whatever, I think we'll understand a little bit better. So anyways, don't at me, as far as, but Kurt, if you read this document, research that, I get it. But from an organization, institutional level, like the church absolutely needs to take steps to protect
Someday
this
we'll get it
movement
all.
happening.
I heard you say that.
So did you get all that? Sorry.
There we go. Now you're back.
I'm sorry. I don't mean for this to be a terrible live stream, but hopefully my main points are getting through. So
yeah, I think so. Let's see here. So maybe I would just give my opinion because it's funny. On my recent 6 year ago interview with Troy Abels, polygamy came up, and I made some fairly strong statements, not aimed at anyone in particular, but I did say, I think I had mentioned, because I had Denver Snuffer. It was a 6-year-old interview, and I had Denver Snuffer behind me, and I mentioned that he believed that Joseph didn't practice polygamy, and I think I said pretty strongly, which I know offended some people, that I don't think, I might have even used the word polygamy deniers have a leg to stand on. I stand by that statement. I don't trust any of the arguments there. It's weird to me how many people, it's almost like a missionary effort to promote that position. So my position is, I don't think anybody should get excommunicated for believing whether Joseph did or did not practice polygamy.
I agree.
But I don't think it's good history, and I'm not going to. It feels like disinformation to me. I know that's a pretty strong word, but I feel pretty strongly about that. And I'm not going to allow those opinions to stand, but I don't think those people should be excommunicated. That's kind of my position. So
yeah, like would you say even if they're publicly like teaching this and pushing this, or what do you think?
That's a tough question. I mean, with the missionary zeal, I think the biggest question, and maybe I should delve into this a little bit more, but if people are missionizing it, to me, there's a theological problem. And I think, and it's why the church is coming out so hard on them, is that, DNC 132, polygamy and the sealing power are intertwined. I remember talking to Bill Smith, Dr. Bill Smith. He's a professor at BYU, a math professor, I will add. And he's done a few books on DNC 132. And I said, can't we just excise, there was the part about Emma that I'm pretty uncomfortable with, Emma will be destroyed if she doesn't accept polygamy. I was like, can't we just cut that out? And he was like, no, because then everybody's going to say, yeah, cut it out. So we just have to deal with it. And so, but theologically, the sealing power and polygamy are so interlinked. He just said there's no way to untangle that knot. And so I don't understand, if you really reject, if you think it's a made up doctrine of Brigham Young, and do you think 132 should be decanonized? And if so, what are we doing in the temple? Doesn't this destroy all sealing ordinances? If we're throwing out 132, that's the big theological question. And I think that's why church leaders have such a problem with, Kurt, you mentioned that, everybody's throwing Brigham Young under the bus, which is absolutely true. I just believe that the comment, the person was like, no, Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy and Brigham Young was terrible and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you can have that opinion. I'm not going to tolerate it at Gospel Tangents. I'm going to support you because I don't think anybody should be excommunicated. But in my opinion, I don't think people who believe in this polygamy revisionism understand the theological case about why the brethren are taking such a hard stand on this. So
right. Yeah. And that's the part of their argument that I never really hear them hash out. It's more
I
of
agree.
it's
I
always an
agreed either.
opinion of, oh, we're just protecting the good name of Joseph Smith,
Yeah,
and
I've
either
heard that a
Joseph
lot.
lied or Brigham lied. And I'm like, listen, we have two scenarios here. Opinion A, Joseph lied in order to protect his people. Or option E, Brigham lied because he was a philanderer, and he snuck in, was fraudulent on revelations and things. That's a huge accusation, as opposed to Joseph Smith lied in order to protect his people. So to me, it's like, you guys, we gotta pump the brakes here. Do not be shocked when you are making accusations about
I agree.
the prophet number 2 because you're protecting the name of prophet number 1. It's all messy, right? And so anyways, that's where I'm like, you guys, I'm not surprised that this is happening. Like, and this is the thing, like with me and my platform, I've been podcasting since 2014, right? Rick, you and I go to lunch, or I'm with friends. I can get super cynical about church culture, about policies, and I kind of just vent and say my piece and then take another bite of my burrito. Like, there's a time and a place. It's important to find somebody you can vent with and talk through these things. Now, if I go on Leading Saints and do a whole episode slamming the church and their policies and things like that, there's nothing I believe that would necessarily get me removed from the church, in my opinion. But if I start doing that and stir the pot of cynicism, yeah, my stake president is probably going to give me a call, rightly, and he should, right? And so that's the thing, is like, it's one thing to have a belief. It's a whole different thing to have a public platform with a lot of people listening and you're spouting these beliefs, right? So,
well, let me say this. I used to have a coworker that was Jewish, and we had some great conversations. And one of the things my Jewish friend told me was that it is impossible to get excommunicated from Judaism, even for murder. And the rationale was, let God be the judge. Man is not the judge. And I was like, wow. And I really like that. And so I guess my bias in that is I would like to adopt that. Let God be the judge. Even for murder, whether somebody should be excommunicated. I don't know. Murder, I could handle excommunication for murder. But or certain crimes, I'm okay with that. But the church has rules, and if you don't want to follow those rules, maybe it's best not to be a member of the church. I mean,
well, that's the thing. Like with some of my opinions, like I'll be the first to say, and this is something I wouldn't delve deeply publicly because it's not my prerogative, it's not my right. Where I truly believe that somebody who's been who's a former bishop, who's been a stake presidency, who's been part of all sorts of disciplinary councils or membership councils, it's probably time that maybe we take that system and start from the ground up and say, all right, because we sort of tweaked it and molded it over the years, and it used to feel like more like a tribunal, and we're trying to get away from that. And I think it'd be good to maybe reset and find a different path to do. I don't love the system that we do. However, I don't hold those keys, and so somebody else does, and it's their prerogative to make the call, even if it's not a perfect system, right? And so that's where I'm like, I would do it different. But again, that's why I don't sit in a comfy red chair during conference. I sit on a couch. So.
All right, let's move on to something else.
Okay.
Chris Johnson says, Kurt, do you think the fascination with visions of glory beneficial or harmful?
Oh man, this is a good one. So the short answer is like probably harmful, but
really?
Well, let me give background.
I never could get through that book. I'm sorry.
And I've never read it either. However,
I started it, but I couldn't finish it. I was like, oh.
2 years ago, I wrote a book called "Is God Disappointed in Me?" Go check it out. It's a Desert Book.
Yeah, and we talked about it on Gospel Tangents.
Right. And so this may surprise you, Rick, but I have an ego, and so I get onto Amazon and look at how the sales are going in my category of Mormonism, and there's also the Church of Jesus Christ, so Latter-day Saints, right? I want to see how my book is ranking, and obviously when it released, it was a #1 Amazon bestseller, and Yeah,
Nice.
as if that means anything, but I can
We
say
can
that.
call you a best-selling author, Kurt Francom.
That's right. And so I still go to that list and just see, oh, what's selling now? Like what new books are out, what are doing well. And like, there's 2 stinking books that are always on that list, and it's Under the Banner of Heaven, which is either 1 or 2, and then Visions of Glory. And I'm like,
Oh.
man, what is with this book, right? And I get it from what I understand of the book is I'm not going to read it because there's so many other there's way too many books I want to read, and to take time out to read a weird book, I don't know. We're obsessed about the end times and about how the mechanics of heaven uh, work. All right, we're obsessed with how the mechanics of heaven works, about the eternity's work, and so when somebody claims to have a vision or can, we lean in. We're intrigued by that. So I'm not surprised by this success of it, and I do think it creates narratives and framing of doctrine that in the long run is not helpful, in my opinion. And to me, that's the most dangerous thing about like messages or platforms or podcasters or YouTube channels is not necessarily what they teach, but how that teaching frames the gospel, right? Or frames the doctrine. So because how it frames it is how we apply it and apply it to our lives. So anyways, that's my thoughts on Visions of Glory.
Okay, good. And I really can't answer the question because it wasn't my cup of tea. So
yeah.
Let's see here. TVS Now 9 question for both of you. What was the most impactful or interesting interview you have done for your podcasts? How so? Oh, I have to limit that to 1? Oh, that's going to be hard for me. You go first, Kurt.
Well, I'll tell you this. Never ask a podcaster this question. I'll tell you. And I know you mean well and everything, but anyway. It's like it's not like picking your favorite child because I only have 3. It's picking your favorite child if you literally have 1,000, So.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I often say the interview with my counselor who left the church is a very popular one. But if you go to leadingsaints.org, scroll down a little bit to the podcast section, we always post, I think it's the 9 most downloaded episodes in the history of Leading Saints. So I would say those are my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know that I can limit it to 1.
I'll tell you my favorite Gospel Tangents, at least the series of. I love your Mark Hoffman stuff. I just ate every one of those up. I just like, give me more, Rick. Give me more. So
yeah, I should hit that up again. There's a few people I've asked
through it. Yeah, so
some
good.
of them are dying now. It's terrible.
I know. Well, you got them recorded though, so
passed away, and Kurt Bench passed away. I'm glad Kurt Francom didn't pass away.
I'm still here, folks.
Up there.
Like it or not.
But anything by John Hamer, Matt Harris, Newell Bringhurst, one of my, I can talk to them for days now. Ryan Cragen's another one, although I think my listeners aren't quite into the science like I am, but I love Ryan Cragen. Stephen Snow, I think that was my coolest interview. He was the church historian at the time I interviewed, and I was getting released. But that one was a fantastic interview. So I'll give you my top 5 there. How's that?
Perfect.
Let's see. Mormon restoration. Sometimes excommunication can feel bureaucratic, like with Levina Fielding Anderson. That's such a sad story to me.
Yeah.
I mentioned Janice Allred earlier. Levina, for those of you who don't know her, was another one that continued to attend church until her death. She was sick, the last year of her life, I think, and reapplied 5 or 6 years ago, I think, for baptism, and the church said no. I was really, really surprised by that, and so, yeah, Levina is one of the sweetest people you won't get to meet her now because she's passed away, but I agree with you, and I feel terrible about that. Any comments there, Kurt?
Yeah, sometimes the church on all angles can feel like a bureaucracy, because the reality is it is a bureaucracy, right? And I don't mean that as a negative like slander by any means, but any huge, oh boy. Yeah, I don't mean that like by any sort of slander. It's just that any organization, an international organization with so many moving parts, so many organizations, and of course it is. Of course it is. So that's just the nature of the mortality we live in, right? Just like imperfect people run the church and they make up a bureaucracy, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And there's a great book if you really want to get into this. I love geek out about leadership stuff, but from oh, now it's leaving my mind. From I'll think of it. Anyways, continue on.
All right.
From barbarians to bureaucrats. Search that on your YouTube. From barbarians to bureaucrats, and there's like a 15-minute explainer on that. The church follows that path perfectly, and it's the nature of every organization. And just because we believe that this organization is the restored church doesn't mean they're free from mortal messiness, right? So anyways, there you have it.
Well, very good. Well, I just want to make one last little plug. So this is kind of the announcement about LDS Faith Journeys. It's live. I go to ldsfaithjourneys.org. You can register there. You can ask questions. I was toying with the idea that maybe we'll make this kind of a Q&A, but the idea is, hopefully every couple of weeks or so, or sometimes maybe can you believe, Kurt? I don't know if I dare announce this, but they're letting me teach priesthood.
Oh boy.
Every other month or so.
Not after I call your bishop.
I know. But he already knows. So in fact, it's funny because, everybody kind of has their thing. I thought it would be interesting to talk about priesthood and the succession crisis. And so I gave this big lesson on James Strang and Joseph Smith III and Alpheus Cutler and William Bickerton and Sidney Rigdon and everybody, William Smith, there's like 13 people. And so I'm all proud of this lesson. I had a PowerPoint. It was great fun. I might do this. I might actually post it here as a future episode on LDS Faith Journeys. But I remember, I'm all proud of this lesson. I've put all this effort into it. And at the end, somebody's like, so what's the point? And I was like,
that's a gut punch.
Really cares to learn all about this fascinating history that I think is amazing. So anyway, if you like that kind of thing, that's what I like. Not every lesson is going to resonate with everybody, but anyway, I'll probably be posting that here on LDS. Well, I'll probably do an episode. I'll probably do some like dual things between Gospel Tangents and LDS Faith Journeys for a while. But just want to encourage everybody, check it out. We'd like to, kind of promote that a little bit more. And, I know, Kurt, if you want to just talk really quickly, we were talking a little bit earlier. You at Leading Saints have a thing called Questioning Saints. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So a few years ago, we did a whole virtual conference about this, faith crisis, faith journeys, questioning faith, because did it for leaders from a leadership standpoint. So how to minister to somebody who begins to question their faith, or
have you done excommunicated saints yet?
That's not a thing anymore, Rick. Okay. We don't excommunicate people.
Tell Janice all read that.
I know exactly. My heart goes out to these people. Okay. But yeah, so we just wanted to put a bunch of resources together to serve, church leaders, or even, the more black and white Orthodox crowd. And so if you go to leadingsaints.org/Zion, it's in our archive there. And check it out. There's like 20 plus hours of presentations and interviews. So, and I got to get Rick in there too. So
yeah, for sure. I need to learn all your little marketing tricks to get this thing going. So
you're doing great.
All right. Well, 8 o'clock. I wanted to keep these about an hour, so I think we're there, and we're not getting a whole lot of other things here. So anyway, I encourage you all continue to support Gospel Tangents at gospeltangents.com, ldsfaithjourneys.org, leadingsaints.org. Sign up, register for an account, and help those who are struggling. And do you have any last things you want to mention there, Kurt?
I'll just say I'll keep my eye on the comments to this live stream and keep responding. I know that there's some questions we didn't get to or whatever. So, and I'm open to you can contact me if you go to join our Zion Lab. There's no cost to it. It's basically an online community, a think tank for Zion, we call it. And so go to leadingsaints.org/Zion. You can send me a direct message and I'll respond back pretty quick. But yeah, I'll keep my eye on the comments as well. So.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Kurt. And thanks everybody for joining us. And we'll see you all in a week or two.
See ya.